Guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I am going to be talking all about how to apply to the Dietetic Internship. I do have a couple other videos here on my channel about the Dietetic Internship or how to become a registered dietitian, but I don't have any that are specifically about the actual application process for the Dietetic Internships. I have been requested to do this video before, and with the deadline fast approaching for the spring match, I really wanted to get this video up as soon as possible. If you are not applying this year, but know that you will be in the future, this might be a really great video for you to come back to and re-watch. Just because I'm going to give you guys a lot of tips in this video. But I don't want to mess around, I want to jump right into it, so let's just get started. So the very first thing you need to know about applying to the Dietetic Internships is that there are two different online websites that you have to sign up for, and those are Dicus and D&D Digital. Just about every internship uses these for their application process. There are a few extraneous internships that do their own thing, but for the most part, this is what you need to do. So Dicus, number one, this is where the meat of your application is. This is where you're going to be spending most of your time. And then D&D Digital, that is actually the server that processes all of the application and actually creates the matches. So D&D Digital you won't be spending a whole lot of time on. However, it is crucial that you sign up and make your own profile on there, because if you don't, your Dicus application that you spend hours upon hours perfecting is just going to be floating out in cyberspace, and you will never even be considered for a match because you weren't signed up for the matching system. My professors did tell us that they did have a girl one year that just completely forgot to sign up for D&D Digital, so she did not get a match. And for those of you who've already been through this process, you know just about how devastating that would be, so sign up for D&D Digital, don't forget. So once you sign up for D&D Digital, you can forget about that for now. What you're going to be spending the most of your time on is Dicus, and this is where the actual application is. So of course you're going to have to fill out biographical information about yourself. You'll be putting in every single class you took, every single grade you got, all of that information. As far as the grades go, internships will for the most part look at both your DPD GPA, which is your GPA with all of your nutrition related classes, and then also your overall GPA. One might be better than the other, but they do look at both, which can either help or hurt some people, but just keep that in mind. But when you are going through and inputting all of your classes and grades and all of that stuff, you need to be extremely diligent, because this section has to be perfect. It has to match your transcripts perfectly. If they see that there's a mistake or a discrepancy, that is going to be a count against you. You really need to make sure that you are super thorough, double check, triple check, and quadruple check all of your application to make sure that all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. It needs to be perfect. So the application part itself is not difficult. It's just a lot of inputting information. It does take a while because you do need to be diligent, but it's not difficult. The more difficult aspects of the application, at least I think, are the references or recommendations, and then of course your personal statements. So starting off with the references, I'm almost positive that it's a minimum of 3 references if I remember correctly. You can have more, but 3 is the minimum, I believe. With these references, you're obviously just going to be asking people to write recommendations for you. These could be mainly professors, or maybe like your counselor or someone you worked with. For me, I did 2 professors, and then I also volunteered in one of the research labs on campus, and the lab leader, she's the one that I asked to write my recommendation. She was kind of like my boss there. You want to make sure you're selecting people that are going to know you as a student and know your strengths, and be able to vouch for you as a future registered dietitian. So you want to be careful with who you select. One tip that I do want to give about this is, for those of you that are earlier on in this process and are not applying this year, make sure you think about this, as you're going along. Like when you're a sophomore or a junior in college and you're really starting to get deep into your nutrition courses and you're working a lot more with these nutrition professors, try and cultivate or groom a nice little relationship with a handful of them, so that you have options when it comes to asking for your recommendations. Now, of course, I did have people who I knew I could definitely ask and I knew who would vouch for me, but I think it's always better when you can ask people that you have a really, really close relationship with or like a great rapport with. It just ends up being a better situation. I know that for people that go to smaller schools, this is probably a no-brainer. You know, they're probably so much more closer to their professors than people who went to bigger schools like me. I went to Penn State. Penn State is enormous. There was hundreds of kids, you know, in all of my classes, so it's a lot, you know, more difficult or maybe less natural to cultivate those, you know, very close relationships with your professors. So I would just keep that in mind as you go along, because, you know, eventually you are going to have to ask people. And even though I may not have had like the closest relationships with all of my professors, or at least the ones that I chose, by no means do I think that they, like, I still had very much confidence in them that they would write a great recommendation or reference for me. I still, you know, thought that they would do an excellent job, and that's why I chose them. But it just may be like a slightly less awkward because I feel like, you know, they know they're going to get asked a lot, and it's just, if you're really, really close to the teacher, or I'm sorry, a professor, it's just going to be a lot easier to be like, well, can you write my recommendation? Like, of course they're going to do it because you're super close with them. So that's just my little tip on that. And then last thing for the references, you want to always like sign that waiver that says you're not going to look at the references. I forget exactly what the verbiage is, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you're going through this process, because it's kind of weird for internships to see, like, okay, she asked these people to do her references, or he asked these people to do his references, but he wanted to see them. It's kind of like, you didn't trust them to write a good essay for you. I feel like that's kind of common sense and no-brainer, but that was just something they always told us. They were like, no matter what you do, like, you sign off, no, I don't want to see it. They're going to send it without me knowing what they ever wrote. Reference part of the application. Now moving on to personal statements. And now I think this is hands down the most difficult part of the application, because they're just really hard to write. Now for me personally, I'm a very strong writer and always have been, and when I originally wrote my first draft for my personal statement, I was so confident in it. You know, I thought it was, you know, catchy and it would grab their attention and I would stand out from the rest of, you know, the personal statements these directors were reading, and, you know, I felt good about it, and no joke, I literally straight up got an F, like an actual F. So for us, the personal statements were assigned to us, like, as an assignment, because we took like an internship prep course while we were seniors, and so our professors probably knew that everyone was going to botch these essays at first because they were just really hard to write without any direction, and that's exactly what happened. So luckily that grade did not count against me because the drafts ended up not going towards our grade, thank God. That just goes to show that, you know, they're really looking for something specific. And while, you know, that original essay that I wrote was catchy, it was well written, and I do think it would help me stand out, it wasn't necessarily what an internship director is looking for. So what they are looking for is for all, you know, potential interns to sell themselves. What they want to see is all of the reasons laid out for them why you would make the perfect intern for their internship, and they want it written well and written concisely. So in order to write a really good personal statement, it does take a little bit of soul searching. What I suggest that you do is just kind of think back on, you know, your undergrad career or anything really nutrition, like truly nutrition related in your life. Maybe it was volunteering, maybe it was something with your family. Just try and really think about moments or situations or experiences that you felt proud and that you felt confident and triumphant, and that you just really, you know, you overcame something and you just did a really good job. So you really just want to take a few moments to think back on, you know, your undergrad career, your career as a nutrition student, and try and tease out these moments that, you know, were kind of monumental in your path to this point. And those are the examples you're going to use, because for this personal statement, you want to have concrete examples. You want to have like 2 to 3 experiences or situations or whatever it is, positions maybe that you were in, and you want to use those concrete examples to prove why you are, you know, their ideal intern. And the way that you find out what an ideal intern is for each individual internship is you have to do your homework. You can go on their website and read, you know, the description of the internship and try and like tease out some adjectives that they use. Maybe they're looking, you know, for competent, driven, self-sufficient, quick on their feet, you know, different words. Just try and figure out, you know, what they're looking for. Try and interpret, you know, whatever descriptions they give or anything like that on their website, and try and mold that into your personal statements. Another great way to figure out, you know, exactly what internships are looking for in an intern is if you go to their open house. And if you can't go, you know, face to face to their open house, see if they have a virtual open house. Those are really helpful too. And in those open houses, they may literally spell out for you, like, we are looking for interns that are going to be competent, well-rounded, leaders. I mean, the list goes on. So just try and figure out, you know, exactly what each internship is looking for in a person. So then you want to take those exact adjectives or those exact traits that they're looking for, and you want to put those exact words right into your personal statement, along with those personal, concrete examples, you know, things that you've done to prove, like, hey, you're looking for someone who's competent. Look, this is what I did in one of my classes, this huge project. You know, I overcame the odds, and look how competent I was. I mean, obviously you want it to be well written. But the big idea here is using concrete examples to prove why you are their ideal intern. The biggest thing with these personal statements is just to sell yourself. Don't be bashful, you know, don't feel vain. Think about how many of these they're reading a day. They don't want someone beating around the bush. They just want to be told, like, listen, I am so-and-so, and you're looking for this, and here's all the reasons why I fit that criteria, and this is why I am a perfect fit for your internship. So just make sure that you're selling yourself so that each internship is going to be extremely interested in you. Last tip for writing the personal statements, I know some people my year would write individual personal statements for each internship that they applied to. Personally, I don't think that's necessary, and honestly, I don't think it's the most useful way to spend your time. What I would suggest and what I did was I wrote kind of like a base personal statement that was generic, and I had all my examples in there, and then for each I applied to 5. So for each of the 5 internships that I applied to, I would go in and I would tweak it. I would change words out, you know, obviously add their name in, like, and I mean, you really do, like, work on tweaking it, like, make them really personalized for each one, but you don't necessarily have to start from scratch, like blank Word document for every single internship. I think that's just a waste of time. So, you know, get a good base going, one that you feel really confident about, and then spend your time going in and tweaking, changing things out, and really making it personalized and really suitable to what that internship is asking for and looking for. So that's pretty much it for, like, the online application, and that really is, like, the meat of it. That's where pretty much everything is. However, there are going to be some, like, snail mail paper materials that you do have to mail in for most internships. One being transcripts. That's a huge one. They need your transcripts, and they need, like, official transcripts printed by the university, not like copies of anything. You'll go through your school for that. I'm sure they have, like, a way of doing that. So you'll do that first, and then also all the different internships may have different, like, print materials that they require, and it's very individual. I mean, most of the internships use D&D Digital and Dicus, which all have the same information, same deadlines, same requirements. However, you know, each one may have their own personal little things on the side, like paper materials and different things like that, and their due dates may be all over the place. So you really need to be careful, making sure you're reading thoroughly the website, reading, you know, their directions, their requirements, and making note of all these different due dates so that everything gets in on time. Because if something is late, they're not really going to look at your stuff. Because if you can't even get your application in on time, you know, how can they expect you to be an excellent intern? So that is pretty much it for, you know, the entire application process. It is lengthy, and it is, you know, there's a lot that goes into it, but start early, take your time. Do not leave this to the last minute. It's such a massive application, and it's not something you want to mess around with, because, you know, applying to internships, it is really competitive, and you don't want to end up doing it a second time if you don't have to. So, you know, do your absolute best on that first try or second try, whatever it is, just so you can always increase your chances as much as possible. So once the application is all complete, everything, at least for Spring Match, which is what most people do, everything has to be in, as far as the Dicus and everything like that, has to be submitted by February 15th. Also, don't forget to sign up for D&D Digital. That is huge. Very simple, but very huge. And then pretty much after February 15th, once everything is in and done, you wait, which is like, oh, it's awful, but, you know, it's fine. You finally get to relax, at least a little bit. I mean, you're still anxious, but at least there's, like, nothing you can do at that point. It's like, okay, well, at this point it is what it is. So then you wait, And then usually around March is when you start to hear about interviews. You'll get those mainly via email. They'll alert you and say, you know, we'd like you to come in for an interview and try and set up a time. So generally with the interviews, if you are asked to have an interview with one of the internships, they want to talk to you face to face or, you know, virtually, however they talk to you, they want to talk to you. So that is a very good sign, and it's encouraging. I mean, you don't want to get your hopes too much up because you just never know with all these people applying, but it's definitely a good sign. If you don't get an interview, the general rule of thumb is they're probably not really considering your application. However, that's not always true. Sometimes people just don't interview everyone, or maybe they don't do interviews at all, I don't know. But so unfortunately it's almost worse that way. I think I'd rather just know, like, alright, I didn't get an interview, they're off my list, don't even think about them, but it does make it a little more, add to the anxiety, but so if you don't get an interview, it's not a definite no, you never know. Once you get through your interviews and all of that, then match day is always like the beginning of April. It's usually always on a Sunday. I believe it was on a Sunday for us, and it's like later in the day. Central Standard Time, I think it's like 6. So for us it was 7 o'clock, and that day is horrible. It's like just the worst day ever, because you're just waiting to hear your fate all day until 7 o'clock at night. So that is all I have for this video. Give it a thumbs up if you learned something, or maybe if you just enjoyed watching it. The next, like, how to become an RD process video I'm going to be doing is on the RD exam. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely keep an eye out, because that will be out in the future. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss any of my upcoming videos. Thank you guys so much for watching this video right now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Pull the dreams to my head, 'cause I'm tired of pretending. Give me something I won't forget.